Hello, everyone. It's good to have you here. I would like to welcome you on the penultimate day of Film Spring Open, and I have a great pleasure of inviting here to due to the lecture of Piotr Sobociński. Give him a round of applause. So Piotr Sobociński, the DOP, the author of cinematography for Hiacynt or the Corpus Christi. He will not only lead today's discussion, he's also the mentor of the ARI group. And everybody who's in the ARI group, I think, are very happy. And Piotr, we're so happy that you are here with us. And I would like to invite you here to the stage. Hello. Everybody speaks Polish? That's good. That makes things a bit easier. So a second question. Have you seen the movie? That's good. Because it was sort of unexpected screening, not when it should have been. I don't have my group here because they're editing our clips, our movies. They're coloring. I mean, we did the editing yesterday night. How do we do this? I would prefer to answer your questions, but if you're very timid, I don't see any questions. I can give you a short talk, but I made this film a long time ago. I do not remember much from there. Maybe there are any questions. There are some questions. We really encourage you to ask questions. Be open. Yvonne, do you have any questions? Fantastic. Just please speak to the microphone. So here on the example of Hiacynt, at which moment did you join the crew, and how the first discussions went in how it should be done? Is it something that we've seen on the screen? Did you have various visual concepts? Okay, it's going to be a long answer. I got the offer to make this movie from Piotr Domolewski, who called me and said, "Man, there is a topic. Let's make a movie." And I was at that time in the middle of filming for the wedding of Weiss Marzowski. It was some very difficult film next to Bydgoszcz, and I said, "Okay, when do they start filming? When do they start filming?" I said, "In the winter," and I sort of calculated that between the end of I have about a week of a gap between ending one movie and starting the next movie. I said, "Well, I would love to make a movie with you because if you're telling me that it's that we have to do we should do this, I can do that. But the problem is I'm making a movie and I will not be able to prepare that movie with you." So that's how we parted ways. It took a few days, and after a few days, Piotr called me and said, "I think we will pull this off somehow. I want to make this movie with you." In such a situation, I couldn't say no. But my life started to look like this. That we're doing scouting every single free day that I had, locations, because the film takes place in the 1980s, as you probably know. So what surprised me in this that few years before I made a movie called Bogowie, and I had a certain database of objects and locations which I had at the back of my head. So I know where I will make those scenes. Let's go into those places. And these places were gone. They were totally erased. Some parts of the town, of the city in Warsaw were totally erased. And you had new skyscrapers. So it occurred that was the biggest problem, because the Hiacynt has a small budget, very little time, and it occurred that we are in some place when we have to shoot the scene, but the camera can only look in one way. So if you want to do a counter shot, there's nothing there, and you would have to move to another place, which we physically had no time for this. So that was the first obstacle. This very important place, the pissoir, which was in this, and it was originally in the Trzech Krzyży place and square, but it's not there anymore, and there's no pissoir there. So we found a place. Because we knew that the camera will be looking from different angles, and that was our most difficult filming object in that place. We found a location where more or less this camera could move around, and this is where we put the pissoir. So historically, it was not historically accurate. Coming back to the preparation after the documentation, I was coming back to the set of the wedding, where we had very difficult group scenes, a lot of night shooting, and I was shooting the wedding during the night, and during the days in Zooms and Teams. I was preparing that movie, reading the script, the storyboards. I was preparing the Hiacynt. So what I promised to myself that I will never do that again, because you have to be full of, you have to have a time to regain your strength. It was 2021, I think. This year I did exactly the same stuff. So I made a movie with Palkowski, and 4 days after I finished filming for Palkowski, I started the movie with Domalewski. But I knew about that early enough that I was preparing the film of Domalewski before the Palkowski's movie. So this transfer was a bit easier, but that's not something that I would recommend to you. Again, I'm convinced that I will never do anything like that again. And here let me quickly move to what conclusions we had during our discussions. The Wedding was a very broad movie, from a handheld camera, 100%. The camera was very dynamic and moving around in this movie. Also for myself, in order to change my way of thinking in myself about how to make another movie. I wanted it to be as far away as possible from what I did in The Wedding. So we came to this concept with Piotr that the middle of the 1980s, winter, very, very sort of cramped places, like small cramped apartments, prison cells, the social realistic architecture that would this loom over our protagonist. So we decided to do it 4x3 in 4:3 aspect. So we like the Panavision lenses, however, because that was the first one of the first movies in the world which was done with those lenses. There was no wide focuses. We had it was only 27 the aperture, and we checked that the 27 focal length lens in locations allows us to make the staging, because we had we could see everything from the floor to the ceiling, and all the locations and objects were selected for this format. Why this format? Apart from the fact that we wanted to show this small human being with this looming architecture. I wanted to have lights, the sources of light in the shot, you know, I remember that these are my recollections, that this it's a bit like a noir movie. That's what we were doing, because the bulbs at that time didn't give you a proper lighting. 4:3 ratio would allow us to focus on our protagonist, and we were not supposed we didn't want to have any additional spaces on the side of the shot. We wanted to focus on what he's experiencing, on his search for his own identity, and we really wanted to be able to look at him. And that's how this movie was prepared. And I completed my filming for the wedding. Everything was sort of tip-top prepared. It's a Netflix production, so all the key decisions that are usually done by the director and the DOP with the cinematic movies independently. Here you had to have all the approvals, you had to prepare the pitch decks, and all this at some point in Netflix was approved by Netflix directors. And we are one day before entering the filming set, everything is already packed. And suddenly we get the producer's phone call that Netflix called, who's pulling out from the approval to film this in 4:3 aspect. And that was our reaction. We were taken aback. We locked ourselves in a room with Piotr, and our whole world, our whole movie that was made in our heads for months, it fell apart. All the documentation, all the assumptions that I told you about. There was one more assumption, that this movie had no money. And Warsaw, as I said, is all in in all sorts of new and modern stuff, which it's very difficult to get out of your frame. So this format allowed us to do much less work in CGI, to erase stuff and to put in the Warsaw of the 1980s. So we're sitting there and we're thinking, what should we do? It's too difficult to change the lenses, because we had to shoot with those lenses. We got it from the US by some direct acquaintance. So suddenly we get, if you can imagine this is quite a square image of this hall, and suddenly you get no top and no bottom if we're doing panoramic. This assumption that we can focus on our actor, that nothing around there's nothing that takes away your attention, it's not, it's gone too, because we have to feel this, we have to feel the frame. Half of the locations suddenly disappeared because we were not able to make a shot where somebody's sitting and someone next is standing, because we will see the top of the head of another person. The other person will be cropped at the forehead. And out of this panic and thought that we have to pull out of this movie, that we will not be making it, slowly we managed to say, okay, we have this wide shot, we will have to, can we make the first day? Yeah, because it's a big location. And what about, what with the concept that we are to focus on a human? Okay, if you can't focus like this, maybe, well, let's make it that he's searching for him, looking for his own identity, and it's him and a lot of space on the side. That it's empty. That there's a girl, and then the guy appears. When the boy appears, we have two portraits that this emptiness is somehow filled. And when it's about focus, how do we get the focus in the shot? We can sort of the focal depth, we can open the apertures to such a way that the focus will be only on this guy. And the second one is that we will will freeze the camera, that it will be a static camera. And this movie that you saw, these assumptions were made within 6-8 hours because we were sitting for the whole day and thinking. Additionally, I was with a camera. I usually landed in a wardrobe or in the doors, so that they were for the sewing off. They were sewing a hole in the wall so that I would be able to show things, because on one hand we suddenly got our world squeezed. On the other hand, that the decision that we're not moving the camera, you cannot do a pan. You cannot pan your camera. So if you want to have a broader set, you have to move back. So that was a very difficult movie to prepare, and we had very little time. And because Piotr was not the author of the script, and we changed quite a lot ourselves, even when the movie started, because it occurred that certain things work, certain don't. We've changed the whole ending also due to financial reasons, because there's some chase getting into the trains. It was impossible to do that, so a lot changed in that movie, and on the go, so to speak. Just to be able to complete it, because this budget does not work with what's in the script. So when it comes to this, the part of the question about the form, I answered your question. I can tell you also about the lighting that I started, that I like to work on nuance. I like to my lighting not to be felt. I would like this to be invisible, but affect the mood and build the story arc, and impact more your subconscious rather than be consciously perceived and being protruding from a story. The filming are to serve the story and not to step in front of the story. So I decided, okay, we have this noir movie, and I had this thought that I have this dream, because the winters in Poland for years are very gloomy and rainy. There's no snow, there's no sun. I wanted this movie to be no sun, that it would take place during the night, that if it's during the day we have this dim light. We know this very well. We have that in front of our eyes. That it never gets bright because you have so many clouds, and that it's so, apart from the architecture, so social realist architecture, this weather also to be overbearing. And this one moment when the sun comes, it's when he discovers in him love in him, and it happens so that 90%, in 90% of cases we were lucky about the weather. And in one scene, the sun came out and it was sunny for the whole day. So we were lucky with this. God wanted this. And the second thing was that I wanted this movie to be gloomy. I wanted these light sources to be in the shot. It's a technical thing. But if these bulbs must be just very dim, it means they would not light the actor. So today, quite often they use the so-called practicals, and this is also what I do quite often. Today, we will see that in the afternoon, because in the evening, because I did with my team an attempt at a candlelit dinner. So this is an example that the source of light is in the shot, but it shines at our actors. However, if we want in if you want the bulbs to be in full exposure so that you see like this core or fluorescent bulbs to be in the shot, that they would be depressive and sort of very dim, you have to other lamps have to shine. You have to have other lamps shining on the actors and the items than those, because they will not give you the right lighting. And it's a bit deeper. If you want the if you want to have it dark on outside of the window, you have to set the lighting right. So another challenge was that in this very short time, we had to light it in a very complex way, and that's how movies were done in the old times. So it's nothing new, but it's much more demanding, and it's much more time consuming, and requires much more of finesse and experience to set the lights in such a way that it would have the same direction as the lamps that are in the shot, in the frame, so that the viewer believes that they are casting this light. So finishing my story about looking for the look of the movie, it's more and more it's less and less easy. I remember the sodium lamps. I wanted this night to be so golden, more colorful than when our protagonist starts to move around, where he's going to parties, when the investigation is ongoing, that it would start to have another mood, that those days are so dark and overbearing, and the image gets lively during the night. So first I had this golden glow of the incandescent and sodium lamps on the streets, with the colder light of fluorescent bulbs, and of course the blue light, the blue police lamp light. And on this I built the image in Hiacynt. So I hope I answered your question. Next question. We can agree who will ask the question. I'd like to ask you a question, not about this movie, but about the work with Wojciech Smarzowski. Oh, that's very different question. Yes, from the acting perspective, it's beautiful and formative experience. So, did you also have this feeling that it's a special sort of a meeting? Wojtek is a DOP by education. He graduated from a Łódź film school. Even he made some T-Love video as a DOP. Yeah, he's special. He's one of a kind, and he's a director who's 100% focused on the actor when we're making movies. So my time of working with Wojtek is before he starts, before the filming set. We're sitting there, we're analyzing the script, we're wondering, and in 90% it's his script, because he made only one movie which was not his script, which was The Rose. I did I made that movie, and all others are his scripts. And I do have this vice that I say what I think. I say what I don't like in the script, what I would change there. Of course, I'm trying to be cultured and civil, but I would ask him to explain why this scene here. What would he say if that was in a different place, or maybe would replace it with something else? So I'm not saying that this is shit. And in this way, Sometimes I get to convince him, sometimes he gets to convince me. But at the end of the day, these are letters. And the movie is something slightly different. So everybody can read those letters in a slightly different way. So if I know what the director has in mind, why should it be there? What is the effect that they want to achieve in all this? In all this puzzle, it's a very important information for me, because I do not need the director to tell me where I should put my lamp, that it should be light or shadow or whatever. I just need to understand what the scene is to mean in the context of other scenes, and what it should mean for the movie. And I will get it organized for myself. So if I have a director like Wojtek, who has a lot of confidence in me, and I have confidence about him, then we don't really talk a lot during the filming. Everybody does their job. Wojtek is 99% focused on the actors, on their character arc, on the storyline, on their comfort, on introducing them in the mood of a scene. And I'm just going crazy there with my equipment, and I secure his back. I keep I'm creating this world in which he will be throwing his actors. Thank you. Now I understand why for actors it's such a beautiful experience. Hi, I saw the movie Hiacynt, but I wanted to ask you generally, when you're working on the script, what do you like, what you don't like, what is difficult for you, what is easy for you? Good question. I will. I have to be honest. What I always loved in movies is the crew. And this moment when the relations is that we all make a movie. Everybody is getting out of the zone of their function of on the set. That it's not the image which is most important. Is that we have to make a good movie. I know which scenes are most important, which which I have to let go because there's something more important, so that you can't get in the way of actors if they're in emotions. I'm trying to work in such a way, and I'm putting these pictures at the I put it aside. I moved away from my original train of thought, but in my crew, I'm working with people who are not afraid to say that they don't like something, or they feel that something could be different. And this I like the most in my crew. They are my friends. That they're making a movie. They're not pulling focus. They're not pushing the dolly. They're not setting the lamp. They are doing this because of the ultimate goal. And there's this fantastic bond which takes place, that we are a team which is able to do a lot for this movie to be as good as possible. Because there's always throughout the movie, you know whether it's going the good way or the bad way. There's at least 100,000 ways to make a shot, and out of this 30,000 are good ways. But this shot, when you put next to the next shot, it's not 30,000, because with the next one there's only 10,000 potential shots. So it gets narrower and narrower, and the further you go in this and this lineup, because every shot is important if until the end of the film. It is dependent on the other one. So putting around those accents, so putting the right accents is very important, and that's why you never know if you're doing things the right way, especially when you start filming. Then it gets shaped, and when you believe what you're doing, it gets better. And the best moment is when you're watching the editing, and you know that something will be there, that maybe it will start, maybe it will touch one person, and it was worth making this movie, having sleepless nights, being nervous, getting stressed, etc. The second most important aspect, which I like the most in the movie, is the DOP's evening, the cameraman's evening. I have this habit that when I have a short movie, I do it once, and if I have a longer movie, several times, depending on the conditions. I either take my whole crew to a bar, and it's our evening, and this is only cinematographic division. There's nobody from outside. We're drinking, eating, talking, and that's the habit we have. I'm trying to do that earlier because it brings together the crew, and that's great because we can be there together outside of work. And what I like the most is when I have some sort of a venue, and I can make a barbecue for the crew, and that's the most fantastic part of the movie for myself. And now the sadder part of my expression is that I don't know if I'm unlucky or what. I see it's getting worse and worse every movie, that because we, the filmmakers, we are children, we like to have fun, like to play around, and we need to have some fun out of what we're making. And another movie is like worse and worse. The timing is, and there's no money, there's no time, everything is so optimized. There's this impossibility of doing anything. Everybody's so negative, everybody wants to go home, everybody's so nervous that at some point this pleasure of making movies and creating something out of nothing, it is pushed somewhere into a distant background, and that hurts me a lot. And right now I finished 2 movies, one after the other, and I must tell you that, as always, I was tearful and moved when we finished filming, that we're parting ways, and everything that we've built suddenly ends. And many people had that. It's not a rule anymore, and that's very sad. And I think it's going the wrong way in Poland. That movie making is some sort of a torment and fight for survival. It's not what it should be about. I read a book about article about pathological development, like construction, and I think like in the movie making we're at the same level. Sorry. I wanted to ask you, what is the argument of Netflix that you can't do this format? There are no arguments because they don't speak to us. They just gave us the message through a producer. There's no discussion. They are the client. They pay for the movie. No means no. And you can't. Just imagine, we spent months to prepare this movie. We were talking to the actors. We were looking for locations. And the only thing we can do, we could say, no, we don't do that. But we live with this so much. It's our life. It's our world. We're already inside. A day before the set, we're already so focused. And suddenly, You say, no, not doing this. So there's no discussion. No, not in this case. Can I ask you another question? That you meant if the material went to the filming, you saw this you saw the footage, for example, and you decided to change the concept after the filming was done. No, I never changed a concept, a general idea, but it also depends on the movie, because Smarzowski always shoots in a chronological order, and this is very comfortable, because it's not the concept that changes, but it gets polished or honed. Because when you start filming, I know that I will do that. Mendes did that. He shot American Beauty in a week, and they said that was his film debut, and he said, "This is not what I wanted. We need to shoot it again." They're like, "Really?" And he started to shoot anew. But he had this opportunity. It doesn't happen. It doesn't happen to me. I don't have that chance. But sometimes I get the opportunity to reshoot one scene. And as you said, in the beginning of the movie, for example, we shot some scene, and this movie is turning into a different direction. It's again the same concept. We're not changing the concept, but for some reason, this first scene that we thought would be good, we were looking for a different effect. But if can give you an advice, the most important thing for the film is to be coherent, which means it can't be like this, that in the middle of the movie you're changing the concept, because everything will fall apart. You have to follow this. You can make a slight change, slight twist, maybe replace something, but the movie has to be coherent. That's the most important Bible, the most important commandment in the film's Bible. You have to be consequential. You have to have credibility. The viewer, if you suddenly change the world in the mid play, unless that's the concept, everything will fall apart. That's how I believe. That's what I believe. Hiacynt moved me a lot. I saw the TV show many times because it was novel and fresh. You said you were talking to the director, but did you cooperate with Marcin Ciastoń, and did you talk about his vision? As I was, I was outside of this all. We had a few meetings between us three. I think it was also Marcin's debut, and he was so kind to let us into this, and so that we, by ourselves, together with Piotr, we were writing, and he accepted this, and it was introduced somehow, but I mainly worked with Piotr directly. The director. Just like with Janek Komasa with Boże Ciało, we were rewriting the script for 3 months with Aurum film on the in the attic, and the script was totally changed, so we didn't have this comfort here. So there were scenes also which were done after the main filming set. It was often so. So it's an interesting thing. The award for the script in the festivals. You should give the award for the script when you see the film and you read the script. Sometimes it's one thing. Sometimes they have nothing in common. So that's interesting. But the truth is that without a script, you have no movie. Because it was great, you can have great shots, but a great movie without a good script, it's very rare, unless what is done is not the script, according to the script. And this happens very often. I have a question on how do you select your projects? I probably come to you, but what is the key? Is this like a moving story that carries you away, or like a human aspect too? But what is your key for selecting the movies when you decide on? It's all about money. No, the script, of course, the script and the director. These are the two aspects which are most important for me. The story has to carry me, and the money are on the third place. In the third place. Hello. You said it's more and more important. It's more and more difficult to find places in Warsaw, like in the 1980s. Doesn't mean that there will be less and less movies about those times, or are they more difficult to do? I think that it will be less and less movies altogether because you cannot get the budgets together. But not all movies need to be made in Warsaw. Thankfully, or not, there are cities which still look as if they were frozen in they defroze in 1980s. You can just enter and do the filming there. Yeah, but true. Here, our Polish producers here were here, and we met over a dinner, and we had this discussion that it was not an optimistic one. That right now to get together a budget, in Poland we used to have 50, 60 movies a year, but this year we get the financing for 6 movies so far, or maybe 12, by the Polish Film Institute. I don't want to discourage any of our young adepts of cinematographic art. However, the situation is not optimistic. The majority is done by streamers. The majority of movies are done by streamers, and these are from the perspective of art house cinema. It's not the same thing anymore. A streamer is interested is to pull in a mass viewer and to make a movie for the viewer. So I think there is a certain help for us, or certain aid for us. You have to educate the viewer in Poland. So first we had build an audience. So for example, Kulej, 30,000 people in the opening. KOS Grand Prix in Gdynia, on the opening weekend, 50,000. Like two years before, movies, even mediocre, had 500, 700,000 people on the opening weekend. So we are on the opening week. So we are in a sort of a difficult moment. Actually, I'm preparing myself for my own demise, because I don't know if we'll be making movies anymore. My second question is, I live in France. It's very difficult for me to get Polish movies, and for me, I have an opportunity to sit here. Or why is it so difficult to get those movies from one country to another? I think that Polish distribution is not interested in promoting movies outside of Poland in the majority of cases. That's one thing. And the other one, let me come back to my previous answer, that nobody's interested in movies altogether. at least in cinema. So not only, even if they're not interested in Polish movies, it's very difficult to get French movies here. If you have 30,000 Polish people, people coming to a Polish movie, and how many of them will see a French movie? 300? It works in, I would say, this streaming. You can buy them on the VOD, and those people who want to see that movie, they will watch it. I solved it in such a way that I got a very good projector, and I'm watching all the movies I want at home because, like, really, it's horrible. And once step back, you have to educate the viewer, the audience, the viewer who would want and appreciate movies, art house movies, because I have nothing against like the midstream or mainstream or like entertainment movies. But we are in a sort of a crisis point, and I don't know which way it will go. Do festivals help with this? I read somewhere that even Oscars are not interesting to anyone. There is like a total dip in prestige and interest. It wasn't like this always. If something won a festival, people would go to the cinema. But KOS, it won the Gdynia Festival and then had the opening at 50,000 viewers. So statistics say that things are not good. But on the other hand, the Green Border had very good viewership. But it's all thanks to all our politicians who helped us to promote this movie. That there was a big scandal on TV. Well, Pan Kleks, a film for Mr. Kleks, a children's movie. Kids want to watch movies. Well, who else do you know who got some? Oh, the peasants. Again, that was a good one. That was a result. It was an art house a totally art house movie. And moreover, I think it had some resonance on abroad as one of the very few Polish films. But right now, are very few cases in between that a Polish movie would be profitable. I'm not following that because I would go crazy, but I think that Polish comedies or like horrors are watched on Netflix. They're clickable. They're clicked also outside of Poland. So this audience is shifting to computers, TVs, screens, mobile phones, and this is great that you can get movies from all around the world and watch them. This is the value of those streamers. Is there a thing that you know now as you're working, and is there something that you would say to yourself at a younger age? There is one thing, but I'm working on it, and it's I'm getting too nervous that you're shouting. It never changes anything. Because it is as it is. You are supposed to have sun, you have rain, you have things that you have no control over, and you have to somehow get over it and move on. And it's something I can manage even today because I'm a perfectionist. And if something is not going according to my will, I can't really take it very well, and I eat a lot then. Too much. I'm eating over my stress. Then I look at myself that I'm fat, so I continue eating, and this is what it looks like. This is my filmmaking. I wanted to ask you about your most important movies for you, not well the films which are most important for you, but also those which shaped you, about people who have most influence over you, and the things from the domain of art which resonates with you. I like to eat. I like tasty food. So like no, like really, what helped me a lot when my kids, when our kids were born, and I noticed that the film is not the most important thing. This is what I will say to myself, to younger myself. My most important movies, despite this depressive mood, I hope my depressive pronouncement from before. I hope they're still in front of me. There's a guy, Krzysztof Ptak. He is a cinematographer who invited me to do the operating the camera, and thanks to Krzysztof Ptak, I managed to meet Wojciech Smarzowski, who then gave me my debut. Because I was filming in his movie the Evil House. But Krzysztof said I didn't want to filming them there because I wanted to do my own stuff. But Krzysztof said, please do that, and we were filming in Bieszczady in the mountains. It was done on some crazy shitty digital camera. I really didn't want to do that. But then I met Wojtek, who charmed me with his approach to actors, to the movie, to the level of, to the focus. And Krzysztof, which I didn't understand yet at that time, he insisted that I'm in all documentations, that I'm in all meetings, which you normally don't have the cameraman there. I was so pissed off that I have to go there, but hey, I met for free from behind the scenes how you produce the movie, how all these discussions look like. I even myself started to say things by myself because he was pushing me to the forefront. Then during the filming set, when we started to film, he sort of started to get late. He was eating his breakfast for a longer time, and I was left with a gaffer. And the people looked at me because Krzysztof was not there. And very smoothly, I sort of entered that movie because I was lighting. The Krzysztof would come, he would correct or not. So if he liked it, he just left it like that. If he didn't, he would correct it. And I totally unconsciously, I was adapted by Krzysztof to be the DOP, the director of photography. And I remember that after the Evil House, I got Smarzowski called me and he said, I want to offer you a movie. And instead of being happy, I froze. I said, it's impossible. Krzysztof loves me so much. And now I will take away his director. And I'm like, yeah, fine, great, thank you. And the first thing I did, I called Krzysztof and saying, Krzysztof, it's an awkward situation. I don't know what to do because Smarzowski called me and he offered a movie to me. And Krzysztof then behaved in the most beautiful way. He said, that's fantastic, that's great, that I should go and make that movie. And he let me go into the world. And this movie was Róża, the Rose. How it is to have a brother who's also a cinematographer? You should ask him. I was the first, but I also have a father and grandfather who are cinematographers. I have I had grandfathers who were actors, a mother who's an actress, and a sister who's an actress. I don't know how it is to have a brother who's not a cinematographer. No, like it's great. It's great. I think he's at a much higher level of career than myself. He's making movies mainly abroad. He earns huge money, and he's doing great. Maybe he will get me. He will find me a job at some point. I have a question. In the majority of the movies, are you also a DOP because standing behind the camera? What determines it? During the filming, do you have shots that where you have to be at the camera, or I was just wondering, how do you transfer? I'm a pretty good cameraman. I've been working with the majority of Polish DOPs before I started to do photography myself. When I started, I had a cameraman because I had to focus on the lighting. I decided that it will be too much. I made my first movie on a film. It's a totally different level of stress because you don't know what you're doing. You have to feel it, and this tape, and about the change of concept. It was like this in Róża, and thanks to the fact that it was done in a chronological sequence, the photography is more and more bold, more contrasting, more dark, but it doesn't come from the concept. It comes from the fact that I saw what I can allow myself to do, that I can still press on, that as the materials were flowing in, the footage was flowing. It happened, thankfully, so that we were shooting chronologically, so this development sort of falls in place with the development of the story. Yeah. Operating the camera. Well, first I had my camera operator, my cameraman. Then Maciej Lisiecki also became a camera operator. So I don't have a guy who was moving the camera, and with increasingly tenser and agendas, and with less and less money, you don't have this time, and that's another person. If it's not a person who knows you, a person who's good in what they're doing, let's say, or they feel what you want to do, you have to communicate, and there's no time for this communication in current situation. So if you have smaller films where I knew it would be difficult, that I get the camera to my own hands, and I'm just next to the actor, and I can give them a remark. I see what's happening on the set. When I'm at the preview, I'm focusing on the image, which is great because I have a clear creative process. However, here I'm at the center of events, and I can react to the actor when something changes. I can whatever happens on the set, I can change something, and I take responsibility for that because I have a cameraman. When you set the lighting, you have only a certain piece of the set which works. It's very difficult to demand from such a person that if we agree to something, that they would start to improvise, that they would start to do something. That can be done only by the best camera men who are aware of where things are still good and where it stops being good anymore. So we have two cameras. 100% I'm taking a cameraman because I have a control over the whole photography process of image. I have to be at the preview and control the whole set. My last two movies I did with I found a cameraman who's better than me and who's wiser than me. He's fantastic. He thinks about the movie, about the history arc, the dramatic arc, and not how much place you should give over the head. He thinks with the movie. His name is Adam Leonard. He's great. And how is it? My brother stole him from me, and he's making Chopin with my brother. So right, I'm sort of assisting the camera myself. So Adam Leonard, I really recommend that to you. If you want to make a movie, he will make the movie for you. Adam doesn't want to be the DOP. He doesn't want to be the cinematographer. He wants to the assistant, the first camera assistant. So in 90% of Polish camera assistants, the problem is you have him for 2 movies and then he becomes the cinematographer. That's great, but from my perspective, it's bad because you have to find another camera cinematographer's assistant. Yes, I was also wondering, because when I was thinking about it, that sometimes one thing is control, but on the other hand, this closeness and intuition. I was wondering if that in my case, I do feel that maybe visually you will lose something, but also you're building closer to the real thing. With Adam, it's doing things as I would do it, but better. So there is a certain logic in this, that as if it was second me on the set in front of the camera. I don't need to tell him anything. He will set the actors for me. I will set the light, so that's much quicker. It helps me with the staging, and not the staging where it looks nice, but the staging which carries the story, and it's complex and it deepens the story. And also the movement of the camera that he suggests is also stems from the emotions of the actors, from the atmosphere that we want to have in the scene. So the movement of the camera is a main factor in terms of building the drama, the narrative. I wanted to ask you, where can you learn that? Because it is so that when you get to such a set, you either do well or they fire you. I think my brother, for example, is pretty bad camera assistant, and he's a very good director of photography. We worked together for some time and it didn't work out. So I decided we will not be working together. I have a lot of comments to his camera assisting, but I think he's a great DOP. Unfortunately, you have to learn on the set. And it is very difficult in our times. Was my first camera assisting? I mustered up my strength and I called Edelman, who took me for the second camera in Katyń, and I agreed. I went there. I was super stressed, but at some point, this second camera, I know it's less important, and slowly you get in, and if you have a good crew, the guys will tell you how to put in the handles, what to put where, so that you feel comfortable, how to do the looper, there's no. I think there are classes in camera assistance, but I think you have to discover that in yourself in practice, and it stems from your emotion. I think I started to I started to become a good camera assistant when I stopped thinking about assisting the camera, but I started to think about looking at the actor through the look. The acting cannot be technical; it has to be emotional. So you have to learn how to set the head, and then you have to get all the technical things right, and then you throw it all away, and you have to be present. You have to be the eyes of the audience and to see what will get us interested. A lot of thought. Okay, guys, I think let's not prolong this torment. I think we spoke a lot. I would like to thank you very much for joining me here. And you came here to listen to me and watch me. Thanks.